My Little Pony is a toy line created in the early 80s by Hasbro, which also made popular brands like Care Bears, Littlest Pet Shop, Transformers, and US military propaganda. The first generation of My Little Pony, which is something Hasbro labels their toy lines every so often they reboot them, lasted from 1982 to 1992. This generation included animated specials and a series called My Little Pony Tales, though the specials and the series take place in different continuities, whatever, we're not getting into it. Hasbro then rebooted a series for Generation 2, which only lasted from 1997 to 1999. And it was only a toy line, no animated media. I guess the late 90s girlies weren't up to being horse girls, but the early aughts girlies were, as we had My Little Pony Generation 3 from 2003 to 2009, which included a ton of direct-to-DVD specials. In 2010, Hasbro rebooted MLP for the fourth time with Generation 4, and unlike the previous generations, this one immediately launched with a long-running animated series, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Generation 4 of MLP lasted from 2010 to 2021, surpassing G1 in length. And for content, we had an over 200 episode series, specials, spin-offs, and a theatrically released movie. And it earned Hasbro around $1 billion in retail sales in 2014 and 2015. Of course, due to G4's success, Hasbro now had insurmountable expectations for the next generation. So how long did Generation 5 MLP last? 3 years, from 2021 to 2024. G5 launched with My Little Pony A New Generation, a Netflix original movie. After that, we had 6 seasons of My Little Pony Make Your Mark, which was a Netflix original series. We also had My Little Pony Tell Your Tale, which was a series of webisodes. Think peak Monster High, but this wasn't so peak for them. So what happened? How did MLP go from one of its biggest and most successful generations to what many consider to be a failure? And unlike G4, none of G5's series had a definitive finale to any of its stories or characters. It's like Hasbro wanted this series to be over and done with as soon as possible. Hasbro has never officially said why they canceled G5. We could speculate all day. It could be that the show wasn't getting enough viewership, or the toys weren't selling as well, possibly a little bit of both. We may never know. If you want my 2 cents, I believe the generation was doomed from the start. A major problem with G5 was that it wasn't really a new generation. The previous MLP generations weren't direct continuations of each other. Instead, they were full-on reboots. They would share some characters, but that's about it. But due to the overwhelming success of G4, Hasbro decided to have G5 be the first generation to be a direct continuation, with all the events of G4 being in the distant past of G5. Even major plot points in G5 were tied back to plot points in G4. It became so tied together that G5 struggled to form its own identity. And this was always the plan. Previous concepts for G5 would have carried over characters from G4. As I said, generations would reuse characters from previous generations, but never to this extreme, with all 6 main characters from G4 being included for this concept of G5. The problem was that Hasbro was too dependent on G4, and that didn't help in making G5 stand out on its own. Now, Hasbro does have plans for Generation 6, but it's going to include characters from both G4 and G5, so Hasbro has obviously learned nothing. So I guess it's up to me to create Generation 6 for Hasbro. I mean, I doubt anyone from Hasbro is watching this, but if someone is, then please give me an unfortunately. You don't have to pay me, please. Anyways, here are my guidelines for my Little Pony G6 pitch. 1, it's not going to tie back to any previous generation, especially G4, with the exception of reusing characters, but as I said multiple times, that happen all the time with the other generations. 2, make designs that are feasible to make into toys, so keep it simple, they're not fashion dolls or plastic horses. And 3, have a simple but engaging story. So before we dive on in, I'm going to assume if you click on this video you are a fan of My Little Pony, and if you're a fan you likely have at least context for the most popular series, Generation 4. If you don't, then you can keep watching this video, I'm sure you'll be fine. There'll just be references that I'll make here and there, but it's not going to be too important. But for now, let's drop the curtains, and let me take you into the world I've been creating. In my generation, the ponies are located in a large land called Galloway. There are 3 kinds of ponies: an earth pony, which is just a normal pony, a unicorn, which is a pony with a horn that uses it to cast magic spells, and a pegasus, which is a pony with wings. Now, there is actually another kind of pony, an alicorn, which has both a unicorn's horn and a pegasus's wings, but they have more power than all 3 kinds of ponies combined. Originally, Galloway was one large kingdom overseen by a powerful alicorn king. But this was an unhappy time for all ponies, as the king had an iron hoof on all of his subjects. So one day, the 3 kinds of ponies united together to overthrow the king and exile him to Forgotten Land. However, the 3 kinds of ponies disagreed on who should be in charge, so they went their separate ways. Now Galloway is separated to 3 kingdoms: the Troika Kingdom, ruled by an Earth Pony King, the Pedigree Kingdom, ruled by a Unicorn Queen, and the Lavad Kingdom, ruled by a Pegasus Queen. Now, all of the pony kinds are welcome in all 3 kingdoms, but the relations between the three kingdoms are, let's say, complicated. The ponies tend to stick to their own kingdoms anyways. However, the first pony of our main cast is one that breaks this convention.
Want to buy a box of Thin Mints?
Sure, I'll take 2 boxes.
How about 2 million?
No, 1 million.
Okay.
Wait, what?
Minty was one of the original ponies produced during the very first wave of G1, and she was part of the main cast in G3 to start the G3 film My Little Pony: A Very Minty Christmas. I included Minty simply because she's my favorite pony. And yes, that is mostly due to my love of Christmas/winter aesthetics, but I also want to be very deliberate about who I chose from the existing MLP canon. So Minty, true to her name, is the child of a baker and a confectioner, which you don't know is a candy maker, and they live in the Pedigree Kingdom due to their high status. They're basically like celebrity chefs. So the Pedigree Kingdom isn't exactly the most well-off of the kingdoms, but it is the most developed. It's the only one that has major cities. The Trika Kingdom is mostly farmland, while the Levad Kingdom is mostly coastal villages. Anyways, even though her name is Minty and she has a mint candy for a cutie mark, she is a complete mess in the kitchen. Everything she makes either comes back melted or burnt. So her carrying on her family's legacy is a no-go. But unfortunately, she's not great at anything else either. Most ponies don't have to worry about this because their cutie mark basically tells them what their talent is from a very early age. Minty got her cutie mark during school. She has one of the Earth ponies in an all-unicorn school. She was picked on for not having magic. And no, the Earth ponies in my generation don't have magic. I know G5 gave the Earth ponies plant magic, and I think that was really dumb. It said they're just stronger than unicorns and Pegasuses. Is it Pegasi? Pegasus or Pegasi, whatever you want to choose. Because they went through life the hard way, without magic or flight. So one day Minty noticed the unicorns picking on someone else. It was this new talented unicorn who was personally sent there by the queen of the Pedigree Kingdom. Apparently the other foals were spreading this rumor that this unicorn was somehow otherworldly. It came from outer space. And that really upset her, so during recess, Minty found her all alone crying. So she decided to give her one of her dad's many candies to cheer her up. And that's what she got her cutie mark. So you can see where confusion is coming from. Is her talent being nice? If so, that's not really a talent, is it? Her and that unicorn became close friends though, and this unicorn heard that Minty was feeling lost, so she offered her job as an assistant during a mission from the Pedigree Kingdom Queen to go capture the beast from the Trika Kingdom. Minty, always up to help her friend out, agreed, and the two traveled to capture the beast. So Minty's kind of our de facto main pony, like Twilight in G4, Sunny in G5, though I would argue she shares that spot with another pony we'll get to later. I need her to stand out, which her design lends well to that, as she's one of the very few green ponies in the entire franchise. They also decided to give her some accessories like a hat and a scarf. Honestly, I'm surprised that more ponies aren't given accessories right off the bat. Like, there's nothing kids love more than miniature clothes. I also decided to take more from Minty's G3 design. So compared to her G1 design and G3 design, the G3 design has more of a cooler green color, which makes more sense as she is Minty. And also she has pink hair, which I think just pops more than the lighter green that G1 had. So if I'm being honest, my art style is partially influenced by artists like Lauren Faust, who, surprise surprise, created Friendship is Magic, but I still try to make my ponies look distinct. First of all, they're proportioned a little bit more realistically. I mean, nothing about this is realistic to real horses. I made their heads smaller and gave them longer bodies and legs, and also some fur texture, compared to those of the G4 designs. But I also did not want them to look like the G3 or 1 designs, because those were a little too horse-like. I mean, they're fine on the toys, but in the animation they look a little off. Don't hate me if that's a hot take though. I guess the closest one would be G5 if G5 was 2D, but not like when they actually made G5 2D, because that didn't look the best. I also made sure to make all the ponies in the main cast have different designs from each other so they can stand out greater, besides being a different color, having different hairstyles. Speaking of hairstyles, I gave Minty curly hair that twists in a way reminiscent to a mint candy. I also gave her stripes on her hooves to resemble candy canes, which is unique to her hooves, as you'll see later with the other ponies, and freckles, which you'll find out why later. I also went back and forth with giving the characters colored or solid black outlines. I decided on color outlines, even though they're kind of a pain to make, but it's worth it because they're much more aesthetically pleasing. In reality, that's one of the most important aspects of MLP, cute designs that can make Hasbro a whole lot of money. Also, I know the ear placement makes no sense, I'll move it later, but I don't remember when, so yeah, that's Minty. I really like her design, which is good, because if the first pony didn't turn out well, then that would be a bad sign for all the others. It also have a better image of what I want the show to look like now having designed the first character. I do want to go more into her story, but I'm actually going to save that for another pony we're going to get to later on, because she shares a lot of parallels with her. But for now, let's move on to that unicorn I mentioned earlier. Unlike Minty, Moonstone is much more obscure. She only appeared in G1, and only in the toys, not in the series. Some of you may be thinking of Moon Dancer, but that's another G1 unicorn that happens to have a similar name. Also unlike Minty, in my generation, Moonstone's origins are unknown. She doesn't have parents. Instead, she was adopted as a foal by the Pedigree Kingdom's queen. It was put under her training for her magical abilities. She quickly learned spells that would take other unicorns years to master, and rose to the top of her magic class. Moonstone only had the queen and Minty growing up, as the other unicorns bullied her as mentioned previously. Under the queen's tutelage, she learned of her magic lab and her collection of beasts. See, the queen was able to make breakthroughs in unicorn magic because of experiments she conducted on other magical creatures. Okay, let me quickly clarify that in this generation, there are other creatures, which is nothing new. Previous generations had plenty of them. I imagine most of them being fantasy creatures like unicorns and dragons. Anyways, the queen tells Moonstone that she heard from the Troika Kingdom's king that a beast was spotted at one of their farms. So for her first mission, she wants her to go and capture the beast for her. In return, maybe she'll let her work with her on her magic experiments. Moonstone will want nothing more than to help the queen. Besides, maybe this could be an opportunity to cheer her friend up, as Minty has seemed awfully down as of late. Like I said, each of the ponies will have different body shapes, especially if they're of different race. For the unicorns and Moonstone, I took inspiration from the unicorn in the movie The Last Unicorn. Taller and more lanky than the other ponies with thinner legs and a more angular head. I also went for very long horns because I always thought the default unicorn horn in the G4 designs were too short. Moonstone's colors are pretty different from her original design. I kept her light blue coat color, but decided against the rainbow hair. I know Moonstones are iridescent, but I didn't think it worked with her character, which I would say is a very chill, reserved presence. She has such great magical abilities, but she knows that strong emotions can trigger uncontrollable magic. So she likes to keep a calm presence. But if you get on your bad side, let's just say you're in trouble. If you need a G4 comparison, think of a mix between Twilight and Fluttershy. Compare this to Minty, who's like a mix between Pinkie Pie and Applejack. I do realize if you never watched G4, that means nothing to you. Their dynamic is the cool, level-headed one and the klutzy but compassionate one. All this to say, instead of giving Moonstone rainbow hair, I gave her a purple and white look that's very long, wavy, and majestic. Also, I decided to make the unicorn's horns have a gradient. This I did take from G5, because I thought it was just neat. You'll also see that Pegasi have gradients on their wings. I guess this is a way to show that the unicorn's horns and the Pegasus's wings are magic. Now, I always found it weird how they consider the Pegasi's ability to fly in MLP as magic. I mean, birds' wings aren't magic. Isn't a Pegasus basically just a mix between a horse and a bird? Sorry if that's a hot take. Also, I didn't mention this with Minty, but for eye colors, it's kind of anything goes. I just tried to make sure that their eye colors wouldn't clash with the rest of their color palette. I also wanted each pony to have their own accessories, and I landed on giving her a little tiara around her horn. Perhaps the queen gifted it to her. Also, her key mark is obscured by her hair. It's a moon and a purple star. You know, some ponies used to say that you could see an image of a mare on the moon. But once the queen introduced Moonstone to the public, no one could see the mare anymore. Strange. Hey, are any of you craving some Apple Jacks?
Oh my god, Applejack. You're crazy, dude.
Oh, but you said you weren't going to do any Pony Proud in G4. Applejack was literally part of the main 6. And didn't I say, is she? Is she? Because there was a running joke in the fan would say that Applejack was your favorite background pony. Here's a question. Name one Applejack-centered episode from G4. I'll wait. Okay, maybe some of you said the last roundup, or the Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000. Cool. Now name an Applejack-centered episode from seasons 5 to 9. Oh, what's that? You can't think of any? That's because there are almost none. My point is that it's widely agreed upon in the My Little Pony fandom that Applejack was widely underutilized in G4. It tracks. What stories can you tell with an apple farmer who's also a cowgirl and who for some reason has a southern accent? And do not take this as Applejack hate, we love Applejack here, which is why I decided to bring her into my generation. So, Applejack is still an apple farmer because, frankly, what else can you do with an apple-themed pony? But unlike in G4, it's a pretty small apple farm because, remember, the Troika Kingdom is in the mountains. It just so happens that Applejack's family originated a variety of apples that can grow in winter. You may be thinking, why have the Troika Kingdom in the mountains if it's mainly farms? And one, because I like the aesthetic of Earth ponies being in a snowy kingdom and mostly being farmers. But the in-can reason is that the mountains have very fertile soil because there are some volcanoes that were active a long time ago. Which, if you didn't know, deposits from volcanic eruptions can produce very fertile soil. Anyways, back to Applejack. It's a small but very successful farm. And also, unlike G4, she's the only one who works at the farm. This has made her pretty reserved compared to the other ponies because she spends most of her time working. You may wonder if she has any family. As for G4 Applejack, her family was very prominent, and we found out was quite large. But our Applejack has only one other family member at the farm with her, and we'll get to them later. So one day while working at the farm, I didn't come up with a name for it. The one at G4 is called Sweet Apple Acres, so we'll call this one Snowy Apple Sundown. Okay, whatever. Applejack finds apple cores that have clearly been eaten through. She doesn't think much of this. Varmints are a problem common in many farms, so she conducts an impromptu investigation to see if she can catch the varmint. What she finds are prints unlike any creature known about. They're like ovals with strange, incoherent patterns, and they're quite large. And eventually she doesn't find any more of those apple cores, but she keeps inventory, I don't know farm terms, of her apples, and she still sees that they're disappearing. Mostly the varmint knows that she knows, which really concerns her. She sends the prince off to a lab in the Pedigree Kingdom, which reach back to the queen and, well, you know the rest. So Applejack was by far the most difficult pony to design. I think it's because the G4 design is what most people think of when they think of Applejack, so I wanted to make sure that my version was different enough while still matching the same aesthetics as the other characters. Compared to our other Earth pony Minty, I gave Applejack thicker legs to show the strength she's acquired due to her profession. I also imagine she bucks the apples off the tree like G4 Applejack because, well, they can't pick up things easily because, you know, they have hooves. I also based my Applejack off an Appaloosa horse. I decided I like when MLP designs ponies off of real horse breeds, which they frankly don't do enough of. Colors were a nightmare, again, because I didn't want her to resemble G4 Applejack too much. I made her colors more muted than G4, which helps the idea that this Applejack is more of a stoic, serious character. And instead of a hat, I gave her some cute braided hair, and her accessories are some pretty blue ribbons. Definitely a Southern influence, but not like Texas like G4 Applejack. More, I guess, Southern Carolinian? I don't know, Southern states. Basically, let's have a direct cowgirl parallel. Her cutie mark is the cross-section of an apple, similar to Big Mac's cutie mark in G4, which I feel like represents precision. Like how she's more dedicated to the cultivation of apples rather than the idea of apples, and now I'm starting to think I'm saying apples way too much. I'll talk about Applejack's personality more with our next pony, who is Applejack's brother.
Yo, Chase, go long.
Damn.
Nice catch, Chew.
Not my name, quarterback.
So you may be confused. Applejack's brother is Big Mac, and he is in G4. This is G6, keep up. Okay, I have two major reasons why I included Quarterback in my generation. So Quarterback, like most male ponies, are unknown. He appeared in G1 and only G1, like Moonstone, though he did appear in the G1 series, but the first one, not My Little Pony Tales, which is weird because you'd think with his cutie mark he would appear in the series where the ponies actually played sports, whatever. So male ponies have a very weird history in MLP. Very few of them were marketed and made, which tracks. Franchises marketed towards girls at the time usually refrained from having boy characters. For example, in Barbie, while there's many different women characters besides Barbie, Ken is the only recurring male character, and he infamously feels out of place for everyone else. See Barbie 2023. No male pony was elevated to main cast status in any generation until G5. I guess you can say Spike was a main character in G4, arguably more than Applejack, but he wasn't marketed as such. Now, G5's main male pony is Hitch, and Hitch is something. It's clear to me that much like Applejack and G4, the writers didn't have many ideas for him. The main thing they gave him was a dragon sidekick named Sparky Sparkeroni. And let's just say Sparky is no Spike. He's like a baby and calls Hitch Dada, and it's altogether a very weird dynamic. He can also talk to animals like G4 Fluttershy, which they never clarify if it's because they're related. Fluttershy never had any children or romantic partners that we know of in G4. Right, if Discord fans log off now, please. It's clear to me that they wanted a male pony, but didn't actually go further than that, so me. Applejack's brother Quarterback is our next pony of my generation's leap cast. I found it weird in G4 literally everyone in Applejack's family was an apple farmer, or at least had an apple cutie mark. And wouldn't it be interesting to have one Apple family member who had nothing to do with apples? Quarterback plays hoofball. Because I can't name it football, the ponies don't have feet, but for all intents and purposes, it's the same game as football. They just buck the ball instead of throwing it. He doesn't work at the apple farm because that's not his special talent, and it shows. On the rare occasion he does help out, he just makes everything worse. Or at least that's what Applejack says. Am I sensing some dramatic tension? Perhaps. Cut the props. He's very headstrong and confident, almost to an obnoxious cocky point. It directly opposes Applejack's personality. It's actually pretty similar to Applejack and Rainbow Dash's dynamic in G4. Not in that way. Owl Dash shippers log off. When Applejack first brings up the varmint with him and how these two ponies from the Pedigree Kingdom are coming in to catch it, he doesn't want anything to do with them, as he believes that the Earth ponies like themselves are perfectly capable of handling these things on their own, especially with no help from the pompous unicorns. Oh, you know what? Actually, let me go on a quick tangent.
And if you kick every
Earth pony out of Equestria.
and who is going to
Bucking your apples, Princess Celestia.
in the sense that
Okay, I promise it's not that serious. This is mostly a concept in G5, but there were hints in G4, which makes sense, as I discussed before, to repair the same continuity. So before the main events of G4, before Equestria was founded and Princess Celestia and Luna ruled, the Earth ponies, Unicorn, and Pegasi lived in separate kingdoms, and were antagonistic with each other. After a reconciliation during a Wendigo attack, and that day is commemorated Heartswarming, which is basically Pony Christmas. Then during the last episode of G4, tensions between the three races flare up again, and by G5 they're basically at the same place. The Earth ponies, Unicorns, and Pegasi lived in separate lands and kingdoms, and were both antagonistic and fearful of each other.
I thought Earth ponies were the pony ladder's bottom rung. I heard the Pegasi were brutes you'd hate to be among. You smell like fishes. You're vicious. I bet you eat your young. Meet anyone.
in the sense that you know what I mean, like when I'm saying that there's more.
The main underlying plot of the G5 movie and show is repairing the relationship between the three pony races and trying to bring peace back to the land. So in my generation, the discrimination between the three races isn't as blatant as in G5, mostly because I wanted to stand out from the other generations, but it's still there. As I mentioned earlier, the three races had a major disagreement between who should take over the Alicorn King's place, and decided to split up into three separate kingdoms. Now they can't be fully isolated from each other, as they each produce something the other kingdoms needs. The Terrific Kingdom provides crops with its many farms. The Pedigree Kingdom provides magic, whether it's spells from the unicorns or stuff like potions that we use for, healthcare. And the Levad Kingdom provides the main energy sources for Galloway, wind and water, which they control because they're the only ones who can go up into the sky and mess with the weather for the wind, and they're the closest kingdom to the shore for the water. Anyways, even though ponies of all races are allowed in the kingdoms, it's not very common, and as I mentioned previously, when a pony of a different race is in a kingdom populated by another race, there is an air of suspicion and animosity. Mostly because it's not very common, so they're not used to seeing other ponies who don't look like them. So if Applejack was the hardest pony to design, Quarterback was definitely the runner-up. You see, G4 and G5 had a problem with male ponies in that they refused to make them look cute. For example, look at this G5 image with the main cast. Look how fab everyone looks with their flowers, like, girl, spring is here. But notice Hitch without any flowers and given an expression I can only describe as extreme discomfort. So Quarterback is bigger than the rest of the ponies, but it's not because he's a male, it's because he's an athlete. And if I were to shrink him down and give him eyelashes, you probably would think he was a female pony. Which is my point, you can design a male pony without drastically changing the design philosophy from the female ponies. This is vital because we want to make toys of the male ponies, which is important for a toy franchise. Both G4 and G5 had a problem where the male pony toys were just awful, and I'm sure no kid wanted those. So like Applejack, I also struggled with Quarterback's colors. I did away with the blue in his original design because it looked bad. I also wanted his color to resemble a football, so a dark red. I didn't want his colors to stand out too much compared to the other ponies, because I didn't want him to be looked at as the boy pony like Hitch was. He should be able to fit in with this cast. I didn't also design Quarterback after an Appaloosa horse like I did with Applejack, even though they're related, because I still wanted each pony to be distinct from each other. So as a compromise, he has white markings which resemble the body paint some football players wear during their games. His mane was also a nightmare to design because I wanted it to be short but not too short, so I settled with this messy mohawk look. But a trait he does share with Applejack is the zigzag pattern in both their manes. His accessory is a gold heart necklace. Some football players do wear chain necklaces, but a heart chain, well, I'm sure toy executives would think that's girly, which they shouldn't look at it like that. Instead, see it as a story opportunity. Who gave him that necklace and what does it mean to him? You can already launch so many stories based on that premise. His cutie mark is a hoofball with a goalpost. I can only imagine how the Apple family reacted when he got his cutie mark. Oh, you're probably wondering if Applejack is to keep her parents in this generation? She does, but her parents are retired and left her farm to her and her brother. They're currently at the sunny beaches of the Levad Kingdom. Speaking of the Levad Kingdom... Drop similar to Moonstone only appeared in the G1 toy line and never in any of the series. However, she was depicted as an Earth pony, not a Pegasus, which I find odd because of her name and her cutie mark is droplets. Her theme just seems made for a Pegasus. So I had some trouble figuring out a way to include the Levad Kingdom into our current story, but here's my pitch. I brought up the Pedigree Kingdom's queen a lot, but the Levad Kingdom's queen, let's just say she's sick of the attention the other queen's getting. There's no reason why the unicorn should be the only race to handle magic. So when she heard that the Pedigree Kingdom sent out 2 ponies to capture the beast in the Troika Kingdom, she sent her daughter Lemon Drop to spy for her, and perhaps capture the beast for the Lavad Kingdom. This means that Lemon Drop is going to start out as a foil for a main cast, or at least for Minty and Moonstone. I guess Applejack doesn't care as long as the beast leaves our apple farm, and Quarterback's going to be upset no matter what, because Applejack should have let him handle it. So I guess you could say having one of our main cast be the daughter of a Pegasus Queen is a retread of G5, because both Pip and Zip were the daughter of a Pegasus Queen. I also have Applejack in this generation, so you could say the retreading station disembarked a while ago. Why did I write that? Anyways, Lemon Drop arrives at Applejack's farm, and now Moonstone and Minty's mission has the extra pressure of finding the beast before Lemon Drop does. And Lemon Drop is what one might call a sour pony. Get it? She's a master of controlling the weather, so rainstorms and strong winds are a lot more common at the farm as she tries to flush out the beast, as well as Moonstone and Minty. Her G4 counterpart would be, I guess, any redeemed villain, because she'll eventually be cool with the other ponies and she's not a major threat. I would say she's at Trixie, Luna Moon, or Glinda levels of evil. She's no Starlight around an actual cult and plunge equestrian to multiple Dark Ages Glimmer. No shade, we stand sort of like Glimmer here. I mentioned previously with Moonstone that unicorns and Pegasi have different design philosophies compared to the Earth ponies. For Pegasi, they have more rounded fur and overall more round features to be reminiscent of clouds. I also decided to have Lemon Drop on a cloud because I didn't have enough room to draw all 6 ponies lined up like that, and because I imagine she's on her cloud most of the time spying on the others and surveying the farm for the beast. I chose Lemon Drop because I just loved her colors. Yellow and purple is such an underrated combination. Like, they're complementary colors, of course they look good together. This also made Lemon Drop a fairly simple pony to design. I gave her poofy cloud-like hair, very large fluffy wings like Pip from G5, and her keynote is the same as her G1 design, except I just added a cloud. Also, I guess her accessory is the cloud. I didn't really keep track of that rule. Well, it's time for our last pony. Let's play a game. Close your eyes and imagine what My Little Pony character will fill our last spot. Will it be some pony prominent in a previous generation, or another obscure G1 pony? Any pony you can think of. Do you have one in mind? Okay. And what if I said with 100% certainty that whatever pony you picked, you're wrong?
Megan? Megan!
What? What? What do you want?
I need your help, Megan. I need someone to brush and braid my hair.
No!
But I need your dexterous
I will
fingers.
cut these off. I will cut them off, actually. I swear to God.
But-
Stop coming to my house. All of you. I have a life. I have a life! Come inside.
Megan Williams is the main character in the G1 series of movies, which may surprise you. A human as the main character in My Little Pony, so you may be wondering how that works. There were human characters in other generations of My Little Pony, like G4, the Equestria Girls, but they're shown to be from another dimension. So, in the first MLP special, Rescue at Midnight Castle, the ponies were captured by T-Rex and trapped in the Midnight Castle. A Pegasus named Firefly flew off to search for help. That's where she found Megan on a ranch, who had no idea that talking ponies existed. But they clearly live in the same world because Firefly was just able to land on her ranch. Anyways, my generation's Megan is from another dimension, and I don't know if you're able to guess it by now, but she is the Beast. So why did I say to add Megan and make her one of the main characters? First, I think there's a lot you can do with a human in the pony world, and it's an idea they only toyed with in G1, because G4, whenever the ponies would go to the Equestria Girls world, they would turn into humans, and vice versa. Second, I watched this channel, Scooter Checks, and they make an abridged series of LPG1 where the ponies call Megan Megan, and it cracks me up every time. After this, you gotta check them out. So let's talk about Megan before and after getting isekai into the pony world. You might think that with her design, this generation's Megan is similar to the G1 Megan, that she's a farmer or rancher. Wrong, she's actually a rich kid who cosplays a farmer or rancher. See, Megan's parents are owners of this super wealthy and powerful tech company, the exact opposite of a farmer lifestyle. But Megan, she just wasn't like the other rich girls. She liked playing outside with the animals and like wearing jeans, flannel, cowboy boots. So when her parents enrolled her into a private school where all the other kids of influential and wealthy parents go, she's mocked for her appearance and interest and is isolated. Hey, that kind of sounds like that Minty Pony story, wink wonk. Her parents just don't understand her. She just wants to be a horse girl, damn it. She is a horse girl, but her parents just won't have it. They want a daughter like all their colleagues have, one who would pose for paparazzi, one who would only spread their finely maintained image and improved reputation. But Megan? No, Megan can't represent them. She looks like she's from an apple farm, not the child of one of the most influential families in the world. But one day her parents gave in. Megan was doing good work at school, and besides the image problem, she was a well-mannered kid. So they rewarded her with what she wanted most, her own pony during her 13th birthday. But Megan didn't want a pony. She wanted a horse she can ride to her heart's desires and finally feel free. She was already too tall to be riding the pony her parents got her, and Pony still fit that image her parents wanted her to represent, because a pony for a birthday gift is the most quintessential rich girl activity, and that's a true gag. Megan's gotta be stuck in a world ruled by creatures she hates the most. She blew up at her birthday party and screamed that she hates ponies, she hates being rich, and she hates her parents. Now, if you're thinking, a rich girl who hates that she's rich? What a brat. And now you're trying to see my vision. That night she runs away, because she can't take her parents back abandoning her life, and refusing her to let her be herself for once. So she runs away from her mansion, careful to not be seen by home security. But she only makes it about an hour to the woods before thinking about turning back. That's when she sees a horse in the distance. Maybe it's a sign. The horse approaches her. It's a big horse. A really big horse. It gets closer and starts reaching the height of the trees surrounding them. But it's covered in shadows. Or wait, so it's just have black fur. Megan's enthusiasm quickly turns into fear and she starts to back away. She then sees this red glow from the horse's head, or horn. Next thing she sees is a beam of red light shooting at her. She screams. Then she opens her eyes and finds herself in the snow. And all around her are apple trees, and that brings us full circle. Okay, I'm going to quickly tell you about Megan's design, and then we'll get to more story now that we have our full cast. So think about it. We have a green, blue, orange, red, and yellow pony, so therefore to complete our rainbow, Megan should have purple elements. But also she's a human, so she's not going to just be one color. So I imagine Megan looking like a cowgirl, but specifically someone who's trying too hard to look like a cowgirl given her backstory. I imagine she got most of her stuff from a thrift store, and a lot of it's too big for her, and it's kind of mismatched, but it also kind of works. Compared to her G1 design, nothing much has changed, except that she looks a lot more cartoony, and I'm gonna be honest, G1 Megan does not look like she's 13. That's an adult's face. Anyways, you guys aren't accustomed yet to how I draw humans. Spoiler alert, very similar to how I draw ponies. That cowboy hat was actually the hardest thing to draw for this entire thing, and I still think it looks wonky, but whatever. She has freckles, and that's a parallel to Minty, because as I said, they're parallels of each other, and they also have the same eye color. Everything else is standard cowgirl affair. A lasso she doesn't know how to use, a horseshoe t-shirt, because remember she's a horse girl, but very much not a pony girl. A bandana, cow print jeans, boots, yep. Also as a last minute thing, I decided to desaturate her palette a bit from the other characters, just to emphasize the fact that she comes from another world. So Megan is teleported to Applejack's farm when she sees Applejack approaching. She hides because messing with a magic horse is what got her into the situation. She sees this horse bucking apples off her apple tree, but more importantly, she's talking to herself, complaining about her brother and Hoofball. Wait, what? This horse can talk? So Megan lays low because she doesn't want to mess with any of these ponies. So she sustains herself off of apples and she sleeps somewhere inside Applejack's barn. Flash forward to the beast hunt, all 5 ponies are out on patrol for Megan. She avoids them to the best of her ability, but Minty has a clever idea. She empties a bag of her dad's candy and leaves. Because Minty is going to try to befriend the beast, gain its trust, and then capture it. Megan's at first suspicious, but after a while of no other pony showing up, she takes the bait. And nothing happens. But after only eating apples for weeks, candy tastes so good right now. And Minty comes back the next day, and does this again. And eventually Megan starts to look around less, and goes faster to the candy. And then one day, Megan gets the candy, and Minty appears right in front of her. Are you really the beast? You don't look very beastly to me. Certainly strange looking, but not beastly, Minty says. Who are you calling strange looking? You have a horse face, Megan proclaims. Minty is shocked because she didn't think the beast could talk. The two learn each other's names, they start to bond. Minty continues talking to Megan all while the rest of the ponies are still looking for her, and they both come to find out that they have a lot in common, like I said it many times before. So over time, Minty and Megan become friends, and Minty no longer wants Megan to be experimented on by the Pedigree Kingdom's queen, and hides from Moonstone that she knows the beast's whereabouts. So in the context of the series, this goes on for a few episodes, some hijinks where Minty hides Megan from the rest of her friends, but eventually the truth comes to light. Moonstone gets upset at Minty, but after they all realize that the beast, Megan, is intelligent and can speak like them, they all feel guilty about bringing her in. And Moonstone gets intrigued when Megan talks about the way she was brought here. Why was Megan brought here? What does it mean? That's going to be a story for another day. Wait, what's this? Hasbro sent a cease and desist letter. Well, I guess there won't be another day. It was the evil Alcor King. Turns out the island he was sent to had a magic portal that opened to Earth every 1,000 moons or whatever, and he brought Megan here to stir chaos in the land, bringing a war between the 3 kingdoms, which will open a power vacuum, allowing him to reclaim his rightful throne.
Peter. The horse is here.
So yeah, I actually can't do anything with this idea realistically because Hasbro still owns the IP to My Little Pony. But if you like my writing style, or my art style, or maybe both, then maybe you'll like my webcomic. That's right, this was all a secret advertisement for my webcomic. Cryptid Coven is about Athena Brooks, a normal girl living in an 9-year-old and is miserable. Longing for a more exciting and magical life, her wish comes true when cryptids, creatures, history, and folklore that are said to be real but have no evidence proving their existence, become real and start terrorizing the poor people of Boston. It's up to Athena, along with her friends Vivian, Duncan, Marissa, and Leon, to use their individual skills to catch and release them back to the magical realm they came from. Inspiration for this series come from some favorite shows of mine, including Gravity Falls, The Owl House, and even, you know what, My Little Pony. Now, right now, the webcomic is only 11 pages. You can check out those 11 pages over at Webtoon, and as I explain the comic, I'll likely publish it on more sites just so everyone can have access to it and support it. But for now, thanks for watching my video, and remember,
Don't forget to smile.